And genuinely, I don't know.
Steve Corica, you have no chance. This is what the A-League is.
You'd forget that he played for Central Coast. I mean, the way he's going off there. Barbieri going absolutely mental here. Hello and welcome A-League fans to another episode of the A-League Download presented by Isuzu UTE. The grand final is set this weekend in Auckland. Saturday night, Auckland are going on to be taking Sydney FC. Who would have thought the teams with the advantage going into the second leg and a week off are now bowing out in Newcastle and Adelaide. A lot to bring you to preview the grand final, but also review what we've just seen across two legs. And who better to do it with than a couple of legends that have played in some finals. Thomas Sorensen, FA Cup finalist. Archie Thompson, you made your name in finals across this league. I mean, it's a massive week ahead. We didn't get put on the dartboard in Auckland, which was a little bit of a win, but expected results, I mean, the tips were probably quite hard to pick going into this weekend.
Yeah, I think that's surprised. As you said, like you nailed it, that the advantage was definitely with the teams that didn't make it through, and fair play to Sydney and Auckland. I think they were professional performances. They, came up at the right time. And are we not entertained yet? Because there was definitely some great moments.
Yeah, brilliant. And it's strange because when you look at the history of the A-League, this is the first time that the teams that have finished in first and second are not in a grand final.
Wow.
So,
Isn't it the first time?
It's the first time, but I hope I'm right there.
I'm
pretty sure.
Who cares about the facts? Who cares about the facts? I'll tell you what is true, though, Arch, is Sydney made the grand final after finishing fifth, which, that doesn't happen too often. I mean, remarkable turnaround by them. We're going to get into some of their results, but, I mean, just your 2 cents quickly, that's a massive statement.
And I think what I've said the last couple of weeks is that probably the time before Paddy came in, even maybe a match or so into his tenure as head coach, I didn't see this Sydney FC team making the finals at all.
Right.
I mean, they were barely hanging on. But over their last games in this final series, they have been very impressive. They were great from a defensive standpoint when Paddy came in. Now they're starting to add everything else to it, and they're a team to threaten this grand final.
Well, just luckily we've got some great people in our ears to maybe alter the fact that you said. So it's the first time we've had a grand final of two teams that have not been in the top two. That's both teams. So is that what Archie said?
That's what I said.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm just validating my man. You know what I'm saying? Well,
you just said it in a smarter way.
Yeah. Sorry, Arch. But nonetheless, let's get into the first goal, Thomas, because Kisnorbo from Sydney, he's been given the licence to have a big role as part of Patrick Kisnorbo's team, and he got I guess, in the right spot at the right time here for the first goal.
Yeah, and a 16-year-old getting, in and around the box, and that's where his quick feet and. It's a good shot. Daniel, who had a great game, both keepers had a great game, will be disappointed because either you catch it or you try to push it out in a better area than he did. But take nothing away from Kisnorbo. He gambled. He was there at the right time. You can see him there lurking, and he finishes off. It was a tight game, and these are tight moments that definitely decided the game.
Yeah, we've got a bit to get through, so we have to move because we've got so much stuff to talk about, particularly the grand final of the weekend. But you mentioned his name, Akul Akon. I mean, 16 years old. He's played in all three finals so far. He's the youngest player to ever start a final. He's probably going to be starting in a grand final this week, Archie. I mean, we're almost forgetting he's 16 with what he's showing on the field.
Yeah, I do. I think the times that we've been part of finals and big matches, and it was at an age of having experience, and you still felt that nerves, and you didn't want to, make mistakes. But I guess that's the exuberance of youth, where you almost don't have any fear. You're like, you want to showcase what you've got, and he's certainly done that. I actually thought last week that they'll throw Joe Lolly in there. Just because of his experience. But then it doesn't look like Patrick Kisnorbo is going to change.
It's the ultimate compliment, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And Kamidra as well. In midfield.
Yeah.
You got two young players. We talked, we highlighted it last week that they're coming of age and they are, putting a stamp on the finals. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and a stamp on the league was when Patrick Kisnorbo came in as, I guess you could say, a replacement, short-term replacement for Ufuk Talay. And anyone who knows Patrick Kisnorbo knew that could change Sydney's ways, and it definitely has. I mean, we'll go through his stats, but I mean, the defence aspect is impressive, but he's played 7, 2 wins, 5 draws, 0 losses, 7 goals and 4 conceded, 4 clean sheets, which is the big one. I mean, defence wins championships.
It does.
Say, right?
I know Kisnorbo. I played with him. I was close when he took over at Melbourne City, and he's very demanding. He's a defender by heart, so it's a great blueprint. You come in, you steady the ship, because, like you said, Archie, I think they were definitely going in the wrong direction with everything that went on with Ufo Tale and the rumours there, and then gradually, I think he's bred some confidence into them. You can see some of the young players, and sometimes they've always had the good squad, but maybe the belief was drifting out of them, and they've got the belief back, and now you see the quality. You see, the players, the experience. Garucho as well, I think, has played a big part, and obviously came up strong with the deciding penalty. So, he deserves a lot of credit.
And we talked about Sydney FC, probably that large period when they were kind of missing something, and we always were talking about Joe Lolly. Oh, they need Joe Lolly back. They need Joe Lolly back. But then when Paddy comes in, he's kind of like, we saw the interview after the game where he's like, I came in here, I looked at the players, all they needed is a bit of confidence and to be shown a bit of love. And I think that's what he's brought to his team. And now you're not just reliant on Joe Lolly. I think now there's that confidence throughout the squad that the players in every position are starting to lift and not just relying on one player.
Yeah, well said. I mean, you don't want to play Sydney FC right now, but I guess Auckland will be excited to have that home ground final. Thomas, James Dalinov and Harrison Devonish-Mears played some pretty good games, and particularly in the penalties, both got a save each and gave their team a chance. We'll have a look at them here.
And they're great saves. You as a goalkeeper, you expect it, at least from yourself, to have at least one save in a shootout. I was impressed with the timing, because that's the new rule. You've got to have a foot on the line. They both got it spot on, and Devonish-Mears, obviously, that extra save that came to this moment. There were so many moments in it, but the excitement and obviously you can see all the Newcastle fans. They had their moment with Eli Adams. We're going to touch on that, but I think Sydney just showed their experience, and the keepers played a big part all the way through the game. They made good saves. They kept their teams in it, and then both of them came up big in a shootout. Yeah,
well, it felt like it was heart and mouth moments for Sydney FC on the weekend, Archie, because when they thought it was done, Eli Adams popped up with. I mean, he's been incredible all season, but this moment, from just the A-League point of view, was maybe one of the most electric moments we've ever seen.
Yeah, amazing. At this moment, I look at the goal as just amazing, the way that he's taken it. But then I look at the fans and see what it meant to them and what this Newcastle team has brought to this area this year under the guidance of Mark Milligan. It's just amazing. And you talk about confidence and belief and showing love. He's shown this to the players, and that's why they're playing at a level, because they keep fighting. They did it in the first game where they one goal down and they find something. They find something here in the last minute, and unfortunately it goes to penalties, and it's Russian roulette when it comes to that.
Yeah, and these pictures needs to be shown, because this is what the A-League is. It has something that none of the other codes has. That atmosphere, you wouldn't see it anywhere else. And again, I think it's also what the A-League could be, because we need these crowds week in and week out. And hopefully everyone at Newcastle had that, that moment that stays with you forever. I think we've all been at games where you just have that one moment that you want to relive, you want to be there. And hopefully we see more of this, because it was incredible scenes.
Yeah, I'm sure that's Eric Partley wrote that's the loudest he's heard an A-League crowd since ... meaning his goal that he scored in the last minute of a grand final. So that's how big that moment was. Big shout out to Daniel Wilmering as well. His pass, he meant to find Eli Adams in a sea of people, and then Adams hopped, skipped, stepped with great technique to get that ball down and over. You've got to give credit to Sydney as well. To steady a storm there, because Newcastle have the momentum going into extra time. Wow. Sydney stayed strong, and that's a mentality edge that they did.
And it's good to hear. The manager, like it was Mark Milligan after the game, he actually admitted that Sydney FC were better in the two matches, which I felt they were. And like you said, to be able to steady something like that, when the momentum in that crowd and that atmosphere, when a goal goes in like that, the players are all of a sudden chest up, the Newcastle boys. they still ride that and get it done. Amazing stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well said. Well, let's go into Newcastle and have a bit of a season review about them, because probably not too many thought they would be going for the chance to win a treble. Let's not forget that they won the Australia Cup and their first ever Premier's Plate with an incredible season they had. Obviously, Mark Milligan playing the kids, you could say. Incredible stuff. I mean, they fell short here, Thomas, but I think they can hold their heads high. They've been incredible, a credible team, an incredible brand for the league.
Yeah, I think they've carried a lot of the great moments this season. The way they played, the youngsters. What Milligan has done there. He's brought through players, given them the confidence to play. The attitude, everything that comes out from there, should give them a lot of pride and a lot of hope for next season. An A+ would obviously be them winning the grand final, but they certainly, it's a very big A for me, because they tick so many boxes.
Yeah, I think they've been incredible. I think what I hope for them next year is that they can still keep majority of the squad, manager Mark Milligan, together, so they can go again and use this experience, because Lockie Rose is off to Dundee, Mark Natter's attracting European interest, Clayton Taylor and Will Dobson, believe it or not, are attracting interest, and seems like they could be shifting clubs, which are rumours and hearsay, but we do know Lucas Sakuna is going to be off to Perth Glory. So they've got those players that are circling with some clouds around them, but then out of contract players, Costa Grozos, Lockie Bayliss, Kota Minazuma, and Thomas Aquilina and Oscar Fry are all out of contract. So
there's some work to do.
Yeah.
Season,
yeah.
And that's the A-League. That's what you're fighting every single year. You're trying to get some momentum. You're losing some young players, and there's a financial issue as well. Other clubs offering more money, So you would hope that they can at least keep a core group that they can build and then bring in some new players.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, congratulations to Newcastle Jets from the team here at the Download. Incredible season. Unfortunately, they fell short, but a team that we're going to go through, Auckland. Now, Auckland, we're going into Adelaide. We're going to go through some of the receipts they had, but first we're going to break down the game that they played, because not only was it a dominant, experienced performance, but they did it with some fight and in some fashion. Archie, just on their performance, 3-0 going into Coopers. We spoke about the atmosphere of Coopers, what that's going to be like, particularly Adelaide's showing in the second half of the first leg. They had a bit of the momentum, felt like it going their way, but a dominant display by Auckland in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just want to make a point that Auckland are going to win the grand final. Just so they don't get dirty.
Oh, no. Now you're on Sydney FC's dartboard midweek.
You're not doing them any favours, We'll talk about it. You're not
May the best team win.
Sitting on the fence.
Yeah. No, I think with Auckland, they were impressive again. I think what they did well is, like we talked about last week, is they stifled that middle of the park. They just really locked it up, that Adelaide couldn't get it again into that flow. And we're going to talk about maybe the way that the Auckland were quite physical. That's what they are, but they maybe walked the fine line in terms of like stopping Adelaide getting into a rhythm. Maybe there could have been a couple of yellow cards early on. They could have changed maybe the way that Auckland defended. But if you can get away with it, and what they did is they did it really well. They took their opportunities. And again, young players, young team. I was hoping that Newcastle and Adelaide could be there because of that. But, it felt like the experience just kind of won out these two matches from Sydney's point of view and Auckland's, but great game. Well,
Thomas, it's sometimes a game of details and moments, and Auckland got a few right. You're going to talk to a set piece here that opened up the checkbook.
Yeah, and these games come down to moments. We talk about being physical, but you're also being smart. Gertrude Reich, great leap, and he sort of just gets ahead of the two Adelaide's defenders that are lost. And this is another second set play where I think, Kikianis gets a bit unlucky, with, not being aware of where Cosgrove was and commits a penalty. And then, the space for Randall and, getting that third goal, which, it looks comfortable, but, there was some moments, and Selmo had an early chance, Ryan White as well, with a great save from Wout. So, you know what, it could have swung either way, and Selmo going off injured, I think, was also a big turning point. His physicality, to battle that back line, they lost that a little bit when Jovanovic came on.
Yeah. And potentially what we did overlook was, when speaking about Auckland Adelaide's second leg, was I'm just going to touch on the experience of Auckland. I mean, we know how good some of their players are, how tenured some of their players are, but it shows with some of the age brackets as well. Adelaide had 7 players under 23 on the night compared to Auckland having 1. Gerdwick Reich, 21. But you go through Adelaide, Aligic, 22, Burkett, 20, Crawford, 19, Jovanovic, 20, Kikianis, 21, White, 20, and Yule, 21. So maybe a factor punditry's overlooked and Auckland used in their advantage, but Adelaide will no doubt be better for it. But congratulations to Auckland on a wonderful victory, and they sure kept some receipts. And thank God they ducked our show, because I think we may have been tipping Adelaide here as well. But let's have a look at what Auckland's social media team got up to after the game.
Who will it be, boys? I think that Auckland are not at the place they need to be.
Friday night, I'm going Adelaide.
I think Adelaide's going to be too strong at home.
Sit down.
Well, I mean, absolutely incredible. Corica doing the 1, 2, 3 to let them know how many goals put in. Congratulations, Auckland. We absolutely love that stuff. I didn't know you were watching our shows in Auckland as well, but that is awesome. Thomas, you might have some intelligence around what was going on.
I can tell you they didn't miss out on our show, because I have from a very credible source inside the Auckland changing room that that our quote on this show that Auckland was the team to play in the finals. That was being used as well in Steve Corica's motivational
Was that
speech.
A Thomas Sorensen quote?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Okay, just wanted to
should I sit on the fence again?
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome, Auckland. You know what? It's great, though, because that shows good management. You got to find something. And I think we were right in saying that Auckland, they weren't quite where you would expect them to be, and they turned that around. So that is credit to Steve Corica. He fed them some motivation, and they rose to the occasion.
Well, just to highlight the motivation, Archie Thompson did this a bit, letting the opposition fans know that he'd arrived after he'd scored a goal. But Arch, look at some of these celebrations. I mean, take us through this, that all goals that were scored by Auckland were celebrated in a fashion with some passion in front of opposition fans.
Well, I mean, we saw it with Crawford in Auckland, where I think it might have been Jay Barnett pushed Crawford over, go and celebrate in front of the fans. And what is that?
The Port.
The Port. So, why not do the same? I mean, you're in the moment, you score goals, and you know how intimidating that place is. I said last week, there's no place more intimidating than a full Cooper Stadium. So you want to give it to the fans, and they sure did with a 3-0 win.
Yeah, and there's been a bit of history this season. Now, they're building a rivalry, because if you go back to the few other times they played there, there was the Steve Corica, the late equaliser. There was some animosity.
Yeah, the Sakai tackle.
Yeah, the Sakai tackle. So you know what? I like it. It just spices it up, and I'm sure the Adelaide fans will be ready for when they play next season.
Yeah, well, it's now definitely both those teams' second biggest rivalry, you could argue, with Auckland, Wellington, but Adelaide and Melbourne victory. But I think this one is right up on the charts for them. The grand final, as I said, is going to be taking place this weekend in Auckland at 8:10 p.m. Australian time, or Australian Eastern Standard Time, and 6:10 p.m. for the New Zealand time, which is going to be massive for Auckland. They'll be buzzing that they do have a home grand final. Archie, you touched on a great point, and we're going to get straight into it with what Craig Goodwin had to say after the game. But this was very interesting coming from the Adelaide United captain.
I don't like to talk about decisions and things like that, but it was very clear from the start that they should have had 4 yellow cards inside 5-6 minutes. The shirt pulling in transition and those things, I think, was a poor start in decisions from the referee, which gave them the edge into, imposing their physicality on the game. If it's cracked down on from the start, inside the first 2 minutes, they did 2 that were blatant yellow cards, should have been booked. Pineacre should have been sent off inside 10 minutes. End of the day, they won the game. They deserved to win the game. They were better than us on the night. But I think that first 10 minutes, the decisions from the referee allows them to impose themselves on the game.
Well, you might think that's a bit of a salty loser in Craig Goodwin, but I think that's as well balanced as anyone can be after a loss. And if I'm honest, credit to Auckland for the physicality they showed, because Adelaide in the first leg were going at them quite hard. But I don't think we couldn't agree more with Craig Goodwin there. We're going to play some footage for you at home to have a look at some of the first tackles that we found in the first 10 minutes that didn't get a yellow card or didn't even get given for a foul. This is one of the early ones on Johnny Yeo, Archie. I mean, you've played in teams before. You can assert yourself early in finals, can't you? And this one here by Sakai as well, and DeCooley, just letting him know that first 10 minutes, I'm here.
Yeah, the first one I thought with Elliott, I don't think is a yellow card, but this one here, he's blatantly pulling on his shirt, and maybe Burkett can get onto that ball and be 1v1. And I think what Goodwin was saying is, here's another one. I mean, he made 4 fouls before he got booked, but the thing is that what Goodwin's saying is that if he gets pulled up for one of those challenges, a yellow card, then that changes the way that he thinks about defending. And then also the speed that the Adelaide players have. I mean, that he wouldn't be pulling on his shirts. He'd be probably second to the ball a lot. So if he can get away with it, because he didn't get a yellow card, he was doing that. So as soon as you give a yellow card, he's not going to do that anymore.
Correct.
So maybe that just changes the way that he defends and the way Adelaide attacks. But I think Goodwin's right, and that something should have been done early. I mean, it's not the Auckland players' fault. They could do.
Well, correct.
They can do whatever they want.
He's right though. Pineacre should have. Pineacre. There was another one in there as well. The same action. They're all yellow cards. That's 3 yellow cards. That's a sending off. But he doesn't get booked, so he can keep doing it.
Yeah. But you play on from the Auckland perspective. It's a big game. The referees would normally allow a bit more. You don't want to set the wrong tone, so to speak, early on. But we agree that he made 3 challenges. Definitely one of them should have been a yellow card, and who knows what's going to happen after that. So, yeah, it's disappointing from the Adelaide point of view, but I still think they were in the game. They had their opportunities. Auckland still managed to deal with it better. So, and to be fair to Goodwin, he said that as well. He said over the game, Auckland were better. It's a fair comment.
Yeah, but if you can get away with it, well done. I mean, I saw Sydney FC do it to Melbourne Victory in the elimination final at Amy Park, and it helped them win the game. It's part of finals football. It's part of the atmosphere, and Auckland did it perfectly. Thomas, let's get on to Adelaide and have a bit of a review about their season. I think they probably feel they lost a moment here. I think the crowd really felt a similar energy. They were bringing out the 10-year anniversary photos of the 2016 grand final win. There was a belief there going into this second game, particularly off the back half of the second half of the first leg with how they played and some of the injuries Auckland had going into the game, but they just missed out. Yeah,
again, I think they've been really positive. I didn't know what to expect before the season with all the young players. I think Andreoli has done a great job, and I think the future looks bright. The Cooley's obviously out of contract. There's maybe a couple of others, but they've got the core players there. Kikiana's, you mentioned there was interest, so we'll see where that goes. But you know what? I think the future is bright. Yes, a little bit like Newcastle. You're disappointed. You had a great chance potentially. In hindsight now, with when we know how the Sydney game went, you could have had a home grand final and everything. Again, you got to learn from those moments. You got to then take it as motivation for next year, and hopefully they'll have a similar team, and that'll be a great strength for them.
Yeah, Archie, they keep a similar team next year. That's going to be a team to watch out for, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And like I've said all year, I'm a big fan of Adelaide's, but maybe over the 2 games, we didn't see a whole 90 minutes performance, and that's down to Auckland. They were disciplined. We only saw glimpses of what Adelaide can do in second halves. And, when you talked about that Ryan White chance, I mean, if he scores that, it's maybe a completely different game. But then if you don't, you're vulnerable to concede another one, and that makes it.
And Salmo in the first minute too, half a chance, but he's in front of goal.
100%, and so, and then it becomes a little bit flat. But I think they're another team that's an A+ with a new manager coming in. The young players, I won't say plus because they didn't make fun, but a big A because what he's done with that team.
Yeah, and Anton Andreoli, incredible job. 61 years old. You never know when your chance will come. He's done an incredible job. Yaya Dukli and Johnny Yeo, the starting 11 players from the weekend that are going to be out of contract. Austin Ayubi and Pash Madana are the only others. So relatively, they're going to stay together, that squad. Kikianis as well is still under contract, but we know that he is attracting interest from overseas. So let's see what Adelaide's going to put, where they finish this year from where they were at points of the season. They've done a fantastic job. So well done to Adelaide, and unlucky for not getting through to the grand final. Thomas, you were at a grand final on the weekend, and that was the Ninja A-League's grand final. Melbourne City winning their 5th Ninja A-League's championship at Amy Park on the weekend in what was an incredible game. And might I say, we spoke about siege mentality and teams tipping Adelaide and Auckland remembering those. Well, I saw all on social media pundits tipping Wellington and not giving Melbourne City maybe the advantage in this game. We know Melbourne City have been in a lot of grand finals since 2020, but had not won one, so they were due for one. But Thomas, this was an incredible game. I mean, you were focused on the Melbourne City side, but they've made it difficult for any team they've played against in the finals to do well, even good teams, and they did it again on the weekend.
It was an incredibly professional performance. They controlled the game from the start. And I expected more from Wellington, but it was all down to Melbourne City. I think, the big players like McNamara stood up. I thought Leticia McKenna will see, her incredible goal. The through balls, Aidan McKean on the other side, I thought was tremendous. And they controlled the midfield, and they never really allowed Michaela Woods. This is
what a goal that
I retweeted this because this is unbelievable. In any game, in any final, to score this kind of goal, summed the game up. And it had a great crowd. I thought, the Wellington fans deserve a massive credit because they have a great travelling, supporting the team. They, provided a great atmosphere. So, the whole occasion was as good as you could have hoped for. And I was obviously pleased that Melbourne City finally, after a bit of a dry spell with grand finals, they finally get over the line.
Well, on the game stats, it seemed relatively even, with possession ended up being 50-50. Wellington had 26 shots to 11, which if you were there, it probably didn't feel that way to the people from what I've told. And Wellington had a few more shots on target, but a couple of key moments and key players, and in particular, Holly McNamara, Archie. I mean, she's won the Golden Boot. She scored her 13th and 14th of the season. Yeah. I don't want to say she reminds me of you, but I mean, the way she plays, you can't take your eye off her because she's so dangerous.
Oh, she runs the line really well. Like, she times her runs in behind, and delivery has to be there, and that was there on the weekend. But the way that she takes a goal and her goal return for the amount of games she plays is pretty amazing. I think it's like 40 goals in 52 appearances for City. And the goals were quality. And we talked about the speed of Wellington, especially in that front line, and it could have been a danger for City, especially with the physicality that Wellington have. But they just weren't able to get into that. And with McNamara doing what she does, I mean, that first finish was just amazing, but even the one in behind, the composure in front of goal was just amazing. So
she had a third that was just disallowed by the line. She almost had a hat-trick.
So it was a really good performance for City. It'd been a long time since they'd won it.
Just on that, sorry Archie, they finished top 3 last 3 seasons, but this is the first time they've won the championship since 2019-2020 season.
But to Wellington's credit, I think they came out in the second half. Bev Priestman, who I think has been a breath of fresh air, for Wellington. She obviously comes in with great experience from leading Canada as well. She must have said the right things because they came out front foot. They actually started to put pressure, got that goal, and then there was a 10-minute period where I felt Melbourne City were on the back foot. Had Wellington managed to get, they had some good crosses into the box, managed to get on the end of them. Getting that second goal, it could have swung the game, but Melbourne City then weathered the storm, and then. I think they were quite comfortable at the end. So I think the final had everything, and Wellington, I think they can take a lot of credit from this season. They've really been exciting to watch.
Yeah, well, it's a history-making season for them. They were 5th in the league. They made finals for the first time. The word "the Bevolution" has popped up with Bev Priestman, who was a Viva la Bevolution was a sign at the ground, but the Olympic gold medal winning coach. That they had their highest attendance ever and became the first New Zealand side to play in an A-League grand final. So it's a massive statement from them. So well done to everyone there. It's worth mentioning as well some couple of players with Brooke Nunn, who won a title with the Mariners last year, had a career best season, and league newcomers Peter Vlock. She was just 17 years old, and Michaela Woods, who had some incredible stats. I mean, Vlock had 6 goals and 4 assists this season. Michaela Woods, 8 goals and 5 assists.
And they missed Samba.
And they missed Samba as well. Incredible effort by Wellington. A lot of people tipped them going in. That's how good they were. And Melbourne City were just too strong. Big shout out as well to Rebecca Stott winning the first ever Claire Polkinghorne medal as well. She's a Rolls Royce that Melbourne City have. So Melbourne City, they'll be maybe still drinking some champagne. And if they are, well done to them, because it's very well and truly deserved. Guys, we've got some audience questions to get through. But before we do, I just want to bring up grand final this weekend, because I think it's important to talk about from the men's perspective, which we haven't touched on. Auckland now playing Sydney in Auckland. Let's be careful what we say here so we don't end up as a meme.
I think we should. Steve Corica, you have no chance.
Look, we try our best. I mean, as we said, it's a flip of the coin with this league going towards the end of finals. I mean, there have been some incredible efforts. Who would have thought Sydney would get onto what they're doing, and Auckland probably doing what we hoped that their squad would do, because they had one of the best squads in the league, let's be honest, and they did very well throughout the A-League season. But Thomas, I mean, in a sentence, what do you see happening? Who do you see winning?
It's going to be tight, definitely. I think we've touched on both defensive performances. We know it's going to be tough to score goals. It's going to come down to, potentially set plays, where I feel they both got something to offer, especially Auckland with the long throws. We saw, we went through the goal they scored against Adelaide. So it's going to come down to moments. I don't think there'll be one team dominating. I think it'll be end to end, and. You know what? It would be great for New Zealand football. As you said, they had their first grand final. Now it's the first home grand final. There'll be a great crowd. Hopefully, a sold-out stadium. It'll be good. It'll be good to see them win. So, maybe they've slipped into a favourite role. I don't know if that's going to help them.
Yeah, well, I think what's worth mentioning as well, a key battle, we spoke of Sydney FC's defensive record. We look at the 3 attackers from Auckland. You combine the amount of goals they've scored and assists. Lockie Brook, Jesse Randall and Sam Cosgrove. I mean, they've been in the early 20s, 25 goals between them. And no discredit to the Sydney FC front 3. Probably all of them haven't played a lot this season, but the goal tallies are marginally different. So that battle with the front 3, Archie, is going to be key. And the back 4 of Sydney.
Yeah, 100%. And they're probably, when you look at Courtney Perkins coming into the centre of the park with Popovich, he's stuck with that, and it's worked really. But Cosgrove's a different kind of beast,
right?
That with that aerial battle and the strength that he brings. But I think the midfield battle is going to be key. I mean, we always throw out the cliches of things, but the midfield battle for me is going to be key to who wins this one, because Auckland done so well against Adelaide, knowing how they play through the middle of the park. The way that Sydney have been performing, Camijo, Ocon, and even Quintal, I think their combination has been really great, because Camijo tries to find Ocon, and then they try to find Quintal, and then they start to play. I think if Auckland can stifle that, they'll be good. But then Kispe, I think, as there was a moment in that game against Newcastle where Patrick Kisnorbo wasn't happy with the way that he gave possession away. I like when he plays his silky football, but if he does it quickly and passes...
Yeah, that's his thing. If he takes 2 touches...
Too long,
he plays the second and third option at times. And when he plays the first one, he's brilliant.
Yes, I love when he does
brilliant.
that. And you can see his quality. And he got a foot up the... at half time, and I think there was a change in that. But that's where it's going to be key.
Do we know from an Auckland perspective, is Guillermo May?
I believe he may be out.
Oh, okay.
Because
that could be an X factor, but if he's not, then
so I think he's out, but I think the cloud may be around Jake Brimmer. Maybe Jake Brimmer comes back and is available to be in the squad. But interesting one there. We know grand finals are a game of moments, as we've seen in the finals so far. It could be a moment of brilliance, a set piece. Credit to the 2 teams, Sydney and Auckland. But we've got to do the hot seat stuff here, guys. Who's winning? Go on, quickly. What are we thinking? Because we got extra time. But what do we think? It's technically an Auckland home game here, so maybe you slip into their favourites.
I'm going to apparently change my tune from earlier that Auckland is going to win. I think they're just going to just have that little bit extra in the bag. I think they're going to work on something that's going to spring a surprise.
Yeah. And genuinely, I don't know.
I think we're all genuinely. I think we're all genuinely in that category.
I honestly don't know how to pick this.
Yeah.
I think they're just so evenly, even all over the park in their performances in semi-final to come in this.
Two goalkeepers in great form.
Yeah.
Great form. If anything, I'd probably have to go for the home atmosphere and the fans outnumbering what Sydney might be able to bring. So that it could be just the home advantage that Auckland might get them over the line, but it's a hard one.
Yeah, well, because it's a hard one because Auckland's strength is going forward and Sydney's strength is their defensive block. Yeah. So that's what makes it so difficult. But Auckland do have the fans. Look, none of us on this couch would be surprised if Sydney win it. The way they've beaten the top team, Newcastle, who everyone thought, and the way they beat Melbourne Victory away from home, they have the ticker in them to go and do this. But I think we're going to be hedging with Auckland here just slightly, be at the home advantage, and obviously the front three that they have in some great form. Cosgrove back, looking healthy. Maybe this is Auckland's chance here in New Zealand. So we can't wait for what's going to be a massive grand final on the weekend. It's time for us to get into some audience questions, though. As you know, every Sunday, we've only got one more show left, guys, which will be reviewing the grand final. But yeah, the audience questions. Every Sunday you'll see it on the A-League stories to ask myself and the panel what you like. First one here, guys. This is a bit of a funny one because Eli Adams' goal spawned some memories on the weekend, which this is from Rudy on Instagram. Which of Danny McBreen's giggles after Eli Adams' bangers this season is the best? Let's have a look at these.
With the breeze behind him, Adams drives it! Well, can you believe that?
That was the first one there against MacArthur. We'll have a look at the next one here against Western Sydney Wanderers as well.
Great chance for the Jets to double their lead. A touch off, and Adams lashes it in!
The little woo at the end is brilliant. That might be the best one, but if you didn't realise on the weekend, Eli Adams scored this one, and then, well, you surely heard the laugh in the background. This was Danny McBreen again.
Wilmering, early ball, Adams! The Iceman! He's done it again!
You'd forget that he played for Central Coast. I mean, the way he's going off there. But that's punditry at its finest to McBreen, guys.
That high pitch in the second one.
Yeah.
The way he can sort of pitch it up, I think that's elite commentary.
Yeah, we'll give that. I'm going to give the one on the weekend was his best one because the table banging, that's good. All right, let's get into the next one. Anna on Instagram. Which player is most likely to crash the TV panel this weekend like the City women did? Well, before we answer that, we've got to see what Melissa Barbieri and team did on the weekend after they won the grand final. This Barbieri going absolutely mental here. I mean, how good is this? Then all the team comes over. Tara and team trying to get the
keeper.
goal.
She's there. Can you please?
Yeah.
At least he sets it down.
I mean, that's as good as it gets there, isn't it? That is happiness personified. And the girls on the desk trying to keep their cool through it all. I mean, I don't know how you do that.
These are the scenes you want to see and the excitement and everything, and they deserve it.
Yeah, well, I don't know who's going to crash this weekend. Whoever wins, probably.
I think Cosgrove, if they win, I can see him doing something.
Yeah, very, very much so. Well, guys, it's been a big year for us at the Download. We've got a great grand final this weekend. Archie, you're going to be heading over there. Yep. It'll be a packed crowd in New Zealand, so we can't wait for it. We've got one more show to go, though, guys, so you're going to be sticking around. From all of us here at the Download, we thank you for all your likes, comments and subscribe. The grand final is this weekend in Auckland, 8:10 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, 6:10 p.m. New Zealand time, Auckland versus Sydney. That'll be all from us here. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.